And have you seen these videos? Excuse me, these videos where somebody will buy a McDonald's
Mhm.
and not put it in the freezer, not put it in the refrigerator, just set it on the table and leave it there day after day, week after week, month after month, and it never ever goes bad. I mean, it goes bad, but it never has mold or anything that you would normally associate. It's like, okay, what the hell do they put in there?
Yeah, there's something going on there. But uh what else does he like that's strange? Oh, I take these vitamin D gummies every night. I always give him one. He loves it.
There you go.
It's strange. A, D, and K. So I'm sure it's probably not good nutrition. And we tried the dog greens, whatever that's called, rough greens. We tried
Yeah.
that. He 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 gets sick from that, you know. He's just got a really sensitive palate, which is kind of strange. I'm not used to it. Most dogs, they just woof anything you put in front of them. They're all the dogs I had before were counter surfers. I had one that he was so stealth. I was making sandwiches one day and I was standing right there. And the dog just ripped one off without me seeing it. It's just amazing. We called him Ninja. He
Ninja, that's
steal
pretty
stuff.
good. All right, let's see. I've got, I am ready to go here. David, he's giving me a thumbs up. How about you, Barb?
Yep, I'm
All
ready.
right, I'll count us down in three, two, one. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, host of the program and owner broker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb Schlinker is also a pilot. And Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have got to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday. If you can't listen to the entire show, it is always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or search for Barb. You'll find her on all of the popular podcast platforms like iHeartRadio. Every week, Your Real Estate Voice covers great information about the housing market and one of the largest assets, the home. So, Barb, what are we covering today?
Well, Richard, I'll start with pricing. I know I talk about this a lot, but it's so important. It's weird. I mean, we don't have a lot of institutional knowledge in the agent population. I think the typical turnover for real estate agents getting out of the business is every 5 years, 87% of them are gone. So 5 years ago, the market was flying high, watching the clouds go by. Everything was a bidding war. You put it on the market, it was gone in 5 minutes. It was a piece of cake if you were listing a house, a little bit of a challenge if you were a buyer, but it was a easy market to work in. But now, with the prices kind of gradually creeping down, at the same time interest rates are going up, it, pricing a home properly is a skill. And that's something that we help our clients do. And whenever they make that decision to price it right, because it's not my call, it's the seller's call on what they're going to ask for the home, but it's the market's call on what is going to be paid for the home. So we'll talk a little bit about that on the first segment. The second segment, we're going to talk about agents again. I know this is a bit controversial to say the least, but every week in my world is full of drama. As an example, this past week, I had two agents that had contracts under my listings opt out of attending their buyer's inspection. So it's just weird. They signed on to be the advocate for the buyer, but they weren't even there. So it's just shocking to me that that's the way the whole system is set up. There is no job description for a real estate agent. There is no how to. And a lot of the agents are severely lazy. They'd be happy if they just shoved me a 10-minute form fill with an offer and I sent them a check and they had to do nothing. I swear that's how it is. So it's very frustrating for me. And they don't like me when I tell them, no, you're going to go to the inspection. So anyway, we'll talk about that. And it kind of fits into, it makes the buyers and the sellers less motivated to pay their commission if they don't even want to show up. The next topic is about how do you really know it's a solid deal? How do you know it's a firm deal after you accept a contract? You know, that's the time when home sellers are the happiest, when they're like, we got an offer, yay, we got it under contract. Okay, we got to plan our move. We're moving forward. Except there's a lot of things that could derail the transaction. So we're going to talk about how you get certainty and how you know you have certainty going forward. And the very last thing I love talking about, it's kind of fun, is about showings, how home showings can go wrong and what you can do to fix it. And as always, I love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
Listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker, host of the program and owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Today, we're talking about something that could literally cost you tens of thousands of dollars when you're selling your home. Overpricing. Now, Barb, the real estate boom seems to be behind us. Interest rates higher. There are more homes on the market. Demand softened as well. So the big question is, how does a home seller know if their home is actually overpriced?
Well, Richard, it's a question that I get asked. I even get asked it by other agents' clients will call me and ask me why their home didn't sell. And when I tell them price, they don't like it. So, or I'll give them marketing feedback and they still don't like it. It's like, okay, well, you're signed on with that agent. So I'm glad I could help. Have a nice day. Anyway, the truth is that overpricing hurts you in every way. This is not just Barb talking. This is the National Association of Realtors that does these studies and surveys every single year. And they know, they have a chart where they measure when a home seller overprices a home and then slowly walks the price down, they're actually going to net less money. And what has changed, that's an older chart actually. What has changed is that the buyers can get all the information on the internet. In fact, I just talked to a buyer yesterday and he knew exactly what that seller paid for that house, how much they increased the price from the time that they bought it. He knew all kinds of data before he picked up the phone and called me. That is not unusual for a buyer. They understand the market. They understand what's available in the market of and price range of which they are searching. They probably know it better than most real estate agents. And, you know, every seller wants the highest price. I'd love to get the seller $1 bazillion if I could. They also want the best terms. They want a fast, smooth sale. And if they overprice, it is absolutely the biggest mistake. With the rates being higher, the buyers are more cautious. The buyer I spoke to yesterday said, you know, I think the market's still going to go down. I'm just going to wait. So he's going to wait for better prices. Now that could work against him. We don't know. But anyway, buyers are definitely more cautious. They're absolutely more informed. And they're very sensitive to price, much more so than they were just a couple of years ago. So how can you tell if it's overpriced? Well, number one would be the showing volume or the requests that come in to see the home, the number of calls to the office about seeing the home. The number of showings is a really big benchmark. If the home is getting showing after showing after showing, it's a good chance it's going to get an offer. If it's not getting an offer after 10 showings, we got a problem. Okay. And we kind of can tell within the first week based on the turnout, the request, and the number of buyers that we have coming through the house in what we call our grand opening. And it is very expensive to overprice a home. Over time, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars because really your best showing window, the best opportunity to attract buyers to your home are within the first, I'd say 7 to 30 days it's on the market. If you don't have it priced right in that window, it's going to languish on the market. The buyers currently in the market right now would have already seen it. Then they're done that, moving on, not even going to come by and leave their fuzzy bunny slippers to drive by and look at it because it doesn't meet their criteria. And they're finding other deals that are better right now. So it's not a good idea to test the market, although a lot of people think that is a strategy. So if pricing is done wrong, the buyer demand drops off. And here's the key point, it stays off. If the pricing is done right, you get multiple offers out of the gate. The buyers are motivated to make their best offer, and it's sold in a very short period of time. And believe me, it's not the thing that gets a house to sell. I hate to say this because I talk about marketing a lot. It's not marketing. It's not photos, but photos can help. They can also create demand destruction. It's absolutely price. And the Wall Street Journal did a study about what happens when a home seller price is too high. What does it cost them? And actually, over time, the longer it sits on the market, the more expensive that home comes. Plus, you've got carrying cost. You've got perception. So I've had agents call and go, oh, well, we made a lowball offer because it's been on the market for a while and it's a bad market. I'm like, not in my world. My world is not having a bad market because the sellers are listening to my advice and they're pricing it right. We're getting it done. It's that simple. So when you overprice a home, most sellers don't realize that it's that first window that it goes on the market that you're getting most of the attention. All the new listing alerts go out. Buyers and agents rush to get in to see it. And you're competing with fresh inventory versus being the tired inventory. And so if you overprice, you're basically helping your neighbor's house that's for sale sell their home. Also, the buyers will just skip it if they think it's overpriced. The showings will slow down and you'll get little or no activity. That's a nightmare. We don't like it, but I'm not the decision maker on pricing. The seller is. So I try to give them good information, but if they don't follow it, it's going to be the experience. It doesn't matter how much marketing happens, how pretty the pictures are. It doesn't matter. I mean, there are some pictures that absolutely could repel a buyer, but the pricing it trumps everything. How do I know that? I have an account with the asset management company of the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and we list these properties, and some of them are not pretty, not even close to being pretty, even though we try to use professional photos. I've got one right now with eggs and eggshells on the walls, and it's getting offers. Why? Because it's priced right. So, and what happens in the buyer's mind, if it sits on the market for a while, they automatically assume, what's wrong with it? How come it hasn't sold? Maybe we can do a lowball offer. And they don't necessarily look up the actual history. They don't notice maybe it had a contract before and it fell out. They can't quickly see that. So they tend to just assume the worst. And so what happens? Seller finally reduces their price. You've kind of already missed the best buyer population. You've lost that momentum and you end up selling for less than what you thought. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about how you know a home is overpriced and how to avoid it. When we come back, we're going to talk about what you can do to avoid it. Richard?
Richard Randall, we're talking with Barb Schlinker, Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and we're talking about why home sellers need to price their home right to sell now more than ever before. That price needs to be just right. Barb, how do home sellers know when their home is overpriced? And more importantly, what can they do about it?
Well, you can tell by the showing volume once you go on the market. It's pretty obvious. You can tell by the number of agent calls to the office. You can tell by the activity. Also, look at the feedback. What are the agents saying about their buyer experience when they showed the home? I talked to one the other day where the buyer was pretty interested, but he said, it smells like somebody had a urinating problem in that house. I'm like, well, actually, it wasn't the seller. The problem is she winterized the house. And it's kind of a rural property. People go and use the toilets even though they've been winterized, and it makes the house reek. So, she has to stay on top of that. So it might have been when you showed up, but it has nothing to do with how the seller lived. So people, agents and people make these bizarre assumptions if there is a problem, but that's a feedback issue that we can address very quickly. And if you see competing homes selling and it's not yours, it's got to be a pricing problem. Now, let's talk about what the market's doing right now. I believe the home prices became very unrealistically inflated during the boom because the rates were incredibly low. Basically, the cost to buy a home was cheaper than renting a home. So what happened was it created more demand for buyers, and the result was it drove prices up without there really being a good, basics in the market to substantiate that. Since that happened, and since the Fed raised the rates back up to more normal rates, now all of a sudden the buyers can't afford the payments at the higher prices, and the prices are just gradually coming down. We're not dropping like an elevator like we did during the meltdown. It's a gradual meltdown, and it's causing slower sales. Only probably 1 out of 4 homes on the market right now are getting contracts. Rates are higher, payments are higher, affordability is stretched for buyers. And the key point is you cannot look back at home sales in a correcting market and say your home must be worth that much. There's another way to do it. We know how to do it. If you are thinking of making a move, give us a call. We help people decide on how to approach this market right now and when. Give us a call at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Richard Randall. Barb Schlinker is the host of the program and the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Every week, Barb breaks down exactly what's happening in the market. You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. Barb has the buyers. If your home is going to go on the market anytime soon, you need to be talking with Barb. If you want more information, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be covering why should home sellers pay the buyer's agent commission. Barb will explain. All right. I'm sorry,
I left out half of that segment. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, you're over prepared. That's not a bad thing. I apologize. I got to figure out a better way for me to monitor the show. I've gone to trying to not use headphones and use just half of a ear pod, and it has to be wired because I don't think we could do it Bluetooth or whatever. And the problem is I just need to get an extension. It's too short, so I am perpetually leaning over, and if I lean back or I twist just a little bit this way or that way, next thing I know, it pops out of my ear. I'm trying to fumble around getting it back in. I'm watching you, and I'm like, oh, she's about ready to come to me. All right. Now.
You want me to wave?
No.
I can't see your camera today, so yeah.
We've got a little bit of a problem with the camera. They're trying to reconfigure some things here, and we're going through a period of adjustment, I think is how I would describe it. That should be back and ready to go next week.
Okay.
All right. Segment 2. I'm ready.
Ready?
Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. I'm Richard Randall, and this is Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, host of the program, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner-broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, I know from my experience as a trial attorney that there are almost no training on how to negotiate in law school. So in today's real estate market, many sellers want to know what's in it for them to pay a buyer's agent a commission or not. What are your thoughts on buyer's agent commissions?
Well, Richard, I get that question almost every time I meet with the seller, and oftentimes when I'm presenting an offer. Why should I pay that? What are they doing for me? And it's a good question. I think that the whole concept behind paying a buyer agent commission is that they might already have an agreement with that buyer. They might have been showing that buyer homes for some time, right? They could have been working on, I've had some agents say I've been working with this buyer for 3 years until we found the right property. So I'm not saying they don't do work. Many do, some don't do any. So, and there's no way of knowing that when you get the offer. There's no information about it. There's no what's in it for them to pay the buyer agent 2, 3, whatever percent, right? To open a door and write a 10-minute contract. That's what most of them do. I mean, I have to convince them to show up for their own buyer's inspections. I had one recently where the buyer didn't see that the buyer is out of state. The agent didn't want to drive, didn't want to leave his fuzzy bunny slippers. So they're tying up the property solely based on online pictures without even seeing the home. So not even the agent wanted to come down and check it out for him, and he signed on to be their advocate. To me, that's a problem. It's not just courtesy. It's reasonable skill and care, which we are supposed to give contractually and by the state when we sign agreements with our clients. So the way this all happened, if you want to go back in history, the traditional real estate deal was you would list with an agent, they would charge 6-7%, and out of that percent they would pay the buyer agent. So the theory behind it was you would leverage other agents' buyers so you could get as many buyers as possible into the home and get more offers and more interest on the home. And to some extent it made sense. Plus it allowed the buyer to pay their fee through the financing versus out of pocket. In other words, they pay this price and out of the expense of the sale is the buyer agent commission. But I think technology kind of overrode some of this. And then they had that settlement lawsuit that actually had been going on for 10 years. But back in about 2024, they reached a settlement which just got affirmed that basically the buyer's agent commission is no longer offered anywhere online. So what this state did is they put it in the state contracts that the buyer, when they make an offer, they are requesting that the seller pay their fee for bringing them to you to buy the house. I guess nobody really knows what that actually is for. So I get the questions all the time. Why do they have to pay this? Why can't their buyer pay it? And in theory, their buyer is paying it out of the sales price. So I've had some agents that, maybe weren't very trained because they never had to negotiate, that whatever 2.5-3% commission used to be published in the MLS. It was a literal entitlement. In other words, 100% non-negotiable. Once you publish that number, it had to be paid. And if it wasn't paid, they could take you to arbitration and make you pay. Now I went through that. So now the sellers are going, wait a minute, why do I have to pay that? I'm paying you for helping me, but what about them? So I actually went up on AI. I had to know what AI said about it. Why should a seller pay a buyer agent commission? And I was arguing with AI. So basically they were saying that a buyer's agent adds value and reduces friction. Sometimes, but to be honest with you, a majority of the ones that I work with, it's just the opposite. They don't add value. They create a lot of work. They abdicate most of the work to an unlicensed transaction coordinator. They don't pay attention. They don't read, and they don't want to show up. They don't want to show the house. They don't want to go to the inspection. They don't want to go through the walkthrough. I was just talking to my title closer the other day. We're talking about buyer agent performance. She goes, yeah, I'll sit there. And most of the agents that go to these closings with their buyer, they're not paying attention. Their buyer is signing on for the biggest debt they're going to have, most of them, right? It's a huge purchase for them. And their agent is there not even paying attention. They're texting on their phone, stepping out of the room, doing something else. So friction, oh my gosh, that's what they think their mission is. I feel like they think they signed on to be in the sales prevention business, literally. Oh, well, we're not going to buy this home if you don't give us this unreasonable request. That's the kind of stuff we see all the time. The other theory that AI had was that buyer's agents attract more buyers. Well, the truth is, with the 1,500 different MLS systems in the country, that are all different software and don't talk to each other, the buyers aren't there. They're not looking in the MLSs. They're looking in the tech company websites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, mostly Zillow, and some in Facebook, right? For houses. They're not looking on the multiple listing service. And then they go find somebody to open the door. So I don't think the agent is attracting the buyer. The agent no longer suggests the property. It's the buyer that says, hey, agent, get me in that door. So I don't believe that when AI said that. The next one is the buyer agent maintains buyer confidence. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I would say mostly no. Mostly they will, like I've had sellers ask me, they have cameras in the house, right? And they're listening to what these agents are saying during the showing. And the agents are saying stuff like, well, it's not worth that much. Or they're saying, this house won't qualify for VA financing because there's a little speck of peeling paint on the deck. And the sellers are like, why are they saying that? Aren't they supposed to be selling? I'm like, it's just lack of knowledge. So they want to position themselves as being an expert. So they'll say something like that. So I haven't had that experience. And then buyer agents provide a smoother, more efficient sale. Some do. There are some that might, but overall, they are in the way. And I'll give you some examples as we go forward. Now that we're in a balanced real estate market, what that means is it's not a seller's market where you could pick and choose your best buyer and every single house has multiple offers. It's not that kind of market.
Oh, it froze.
We froze?
I was looking at you and I'm like, I don't hear anything. And I thought maybe you just quit talking. It was a microphone. And I'm like, wait, her lips aren't even moving. Wait, nothing's even moving.
But just start with a balanced market and I'll edit it in.
All right.
Are we back on?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Right now we're in a balanced market. What that means is it's not a red hot seller's market. It means that sellers typically do not get multiple offers. They should count their blessings if they catch a buyer, right? That's the kind of market that we're in. It's leaning more towards the buyer has the advantage in the negotiations. So oftentimes the buyers are asking for concessions. Hey, seller, I'll buy your house at full price, but I also want you to pay $10,000 of my loan closing costs. And guess what? In this market, if they don't have any other choices, they're getting that. Okay. So how do you approach it? Buyers, agents are trying to negotiate both price and concessions. And sometimes that's driven by the agents, not necessarily the buyers. The buyers don't do this every day. You know, it's really not cultural in America to ask for a discount. You have to work at it. So, but we do it in real estate. And then I see a lot of problems with a lack of expertise in general, just because it's 1 month of school to be a real estate agent and there is no job description. So like just a couple days ago, some agent was trying to tell me what my job was. And I can tell you that that statement did not go over really well. But the conversation kind of went downhill from there. But there is no job description. The job description is defined by my client, period, dot. That's it. That's what's driving that. I don't care what they did in the past. So they don't know. They just assume this is the way we've always done it. So that's the way we should do it. So he was just aghast that I was attending the inspection for the seller. But the truth is almost—
You froze again.
I'm not frozen on my end. I don't appear to be.
You're not frozen now.
Okay, start again. All right. The cold hard facts are that almost 80% of agents did not sell a single home in the past year. It's terrible. 87% of the agents quit the business. Every 5 years, a majority of the agents are out of the business, and 95% of them make less than $100,000 a year. So I don't think that there's a lot of expertise because we have high turnover. no job description, lack of clarity from their brokers on really how to do the business, how to get more business. We're not that way here. We train our agents on how to grow their business in many different ways, but we don't see that from the outside. And I was treated that way when I first got my license. I got my license. I came from the Navy. I was expecting that I was going to get trained on how to be a real estate agent. Oh no. It was basically go sell, bring me some of that commission.
Frozen on bring me some of that commission. Are you there, Barb? I think we lost her altogether.
Is that on our end or her end? Do we know?
I don't know.
You want me to get Bill?